Welcome back to Fast Freddy RC, and today we're going to start the build process of the Opel Calibra V6 on the TA02 chassis. Now, for those of you that are planning on following along, the one upgrade that we're going to do right off the bat is a full set of ball bearings, and this car has a lot of different sizes of ball bearings and just a lot in general. And there's two reasons that we want to do that. One, it stops premature wear, because all of the plastic bushings and even the brass bushings can often create wear, so things start getting, loosening up. So it's best to replace everything with full ball bearings. The other reason is, if you decide you want to build it with everything the kit comes with and later on you want to put the bearings in, you're going to have to tear everything apart. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but when you have the opportunity to put ball bearings in right from the start and avoid all that, it just makes sense. So there's the wear and tear and just the fact that it's easier to do it while you're building it than waiting until another date. So I think what we'll do for this first video is I want to take you through the manual. And you can see that for step one, we're going to build the rear differential. And this is a ball differential, so we're going to take some time with this when we build this because there's a lot going on in this step. Then in step two, we're putting together the rear gearbox, and you can see already we're going to need those bearings. So best to get them ready right from the start. Then for step three, we're going to attach the pinion gear to the motor. Then in 4, we're going to attach the motor to the part of the chassis. Then in step 5, and again we got some bearings coming in, we're going to be working on the spur gear setup. And then moving on to step 6, we're going to be assembling the spur gear and putting that gearbox back together. Then in step 7, we're going to be attaching the rear damper stay and doing some work with the gearbox joints. And then in 8, we're going to be working with the rear arms. In 9, we're going to be attaching those rear arms. And then in 10, we're now going to work with the front differential. And you can see that this is a geared differential. So the rear of the car has a ball differential. The front is a geared differential. So slightly different way of building this. Then in 11, we're going to be putting together the front gearbox with our geared differential that will have been just built. Then, in step 12, we're going to be building and putting together the counter gears and putting the housing for that together. Then in 13, we're going to be attaching the front bumper stay. And again, working with these drive joints. Then in 14, we're going to be working with the front axles. And again, there's some bearings and whatnot we're going to have to install. Then in 15, we're going to be attaching the front axles. And then 16, we're going to be working with the dampers. And again, we're going to be working with some oil-filled shocks. So we're going to go through the build process of putting together those shocks. Then in 17, we're going to attach the coil springs. And then in 18, we're going to attach those rear dampers. And then in 19, we're going to attach the front dampers. Now, once all that's done, we're then going to work on the electronics. So we're going to check the RC equipment, make sure that the servo is in neutral, all of that before we start putting on the servo horns, etc. And we'll go through that in more detail as we go or get to that stage. Then we're going to attach the steering servo in step 21. In 22, we're going to attach the speed controller and the receiver. So that's all going into the car. And then for 23, we're going to be working on the steering linkage. And it looks like it's got a pretty heavy-duty steering linkage on this car, so that's good. A bit more positive steering, so that's awesome. And you can see there, it really looks like a good rack system, but we'll see as we go. So we're going to attach the steering linkage in 24. Then in 25, we're going to attach the rear gearbox to the chassis. In 26, we're going to attach the front gearbox, and you can see we're going to be putting in the drive shaft. And as we looked at in the unboxing video, it's quite a thin drive shaft. I'm very curious to see how that works and attaches itself there. Then in step 27, we're going to do some steering adjustment, make sure that it's correct. And then in 28, we're going to attach the front bumper. And then we're going to work on 29, which is the wheels. I don't know why, but I always find this is part of the fun part. For me, I like working with the tires and wheels. And then in 30, we're going to attach those front wheels. And then in 31, we're going to attach the rear wheels. And then moving on to 32, installing the battery pack, which we may probably skip over because we're still going to need to work on the body and get it all painted up. And we're going to have a lot of stickering to do on this body as well. And that pretty much is the instructions, because they don't show it here, but there's a supplemental instruction sheet that shows you more info about the body itself and where to place all of the stickers. But as a whole, for the TA02 chassis, these are the instructions for the build. And like I said, there's a supplement specifically for the Opel Calibra. So that is an overview of the manual. So if you're looking at building along with me, do make sure you get yourself a set of full ball bearings. You won't regret it. It's the best initial hop up you can do to this car. So that is it for now. We will start the build, and I will be coming out with a new video, and we will start building that ball differential. So until next time, we'll see you in another video.